Thank you, Las Keogan, and Minister, thank you for coming in here today. This is a conversation that I've been asking for some time, and indeed I think I've worked very, very hard since March last year in my own communities, where I have personally been involved in maybe 900 people that have come to our area in East Meath. So I know firsthand the difficulties that you are dealing with. I'm glad we're having this debate. Hopefully this is a watershed moment and we'll be able to have these discussions more regularly moving forward, giving them the time and attention they need until they're resolved, or at least out of crisis. I take slight issue with the heading of today's statements. It seems a tad limited. We cannot talk about accommodation of any one group in this country without appreciating the wider housing context, and of course those applying for international protection are not the only ones looking for accommodation. So I trust we'll be allowed to touch on these points too. A note on terminology. I know that some of us can get very tied up around definitions when it comes to migration issues. International protection applicants are asylum seekers in common parlance. And beneficiaries of temporary protection are persons who have presented at our borders in possession of Ukrainian documents and have been afforded protection under the EU's Temporary Protection Directive, adopted following the conflicts in the former Yugoslavia. A further division is as follows. Some of the left seem to believe once somebody applies for asylum, they're entitled to it, that all persons applying for international protections do so genuinely, and any hesitation on the part of the state to grant them full access and benefits is xenophobic. This, of course, is nonsense. No country has a duty to accept all asylum seekers who present at its borders. We have a duty to examine applications and appraise them fairly, and to separate the genuine applicants from the others. The question again being, what is a genuine applicant? When I use that word, I don't use it in the strict official sense. The Department of Justice has a litany of tests which are used in the examination of applications, and I'm not going to go into these here. What I mean, what is a genuine asylum seeker in the mind of the public? We might think of someone fleeing war, famine, persecution, someone who has removed themselves from their family from immediate danger, or who would die, be killed or suffer extreme hardship were they to return. This generally is what the public view as a genuine asylum seeker. But of course, not all asylum seekers come to our shores fleeing such circumstances. Some come from merely poor countries in the knowledge that they have a better chance of earning more money and enjoying a higher standard of living in Ireland than they do in their home country. These people, while technically asylum seekers, are better described as economic migrants. They have moved country to improve their economic prospects for nothing more, nothing less. Most sane people are of the opinion that our duty to these people is lower than we have towards persons fleeing war and persecution. I am one of these people. While I admire the gumption and attitude of self-preservation in uprooting and moving country to better their lot in life, we simply do not owe economic migrants the same level of provision and protection as we do other cohorts of people in need of such.
Senator, I'm really sorry to interrupt you. I've been called for a vote in the Dáil that I didn't recognise. Can we ask for a suspension?
Yeah, no problem.
Senator, I'm really sorry. I know that's very rude of me.
Thank you. There are no wars or other human rights emergencies to justify the fact that over a third of asylum seekers are from states such as Nigeria, Georgia, Algeria and South Africa. Why is this relevant? Because in a shocking revelation, the state has limited resources. Each bed, apartment and house occupied by an economic migrant is one that cannot be given to a genuine asylum seeker or Ukrainian. And when we're expecting the highest number of people seeking international protection in over 20 years, this becomes a problem. In January just gone by, another 1,300 people turned up on our borders claiming international protection. The government's approach is unsustainable. But of course, most of our accommodation is not being occupied by the 19,000 people living in international protection accommodation services, but by the more than 70,000 beneficiaries of temporary protection. These are crazy numbers. We're a small country with a small population, public transport and civil infrastructure which is unable to serve a small population, and not enough houses or apartments to serve the already small population. In what world did the government think it would add to the guts of 100,000 people into the mix over a space of a year and a half and not cause a crisis. I say so early on. We are limited due to the resources and logistics in our ability to adequately care for the people we take in, and as we take in more, the ability is stretched to breaking. The government said in 2020 it would end direct provision. It has since had the honesty to say that it would no longer be possible to achieve within the allotted time frame due to their having to handle the processing and accommodation of Ukrainians. Personally, I don't think it's going to happen for a long, long time. There is simply nowhere to put them if the direct provision centres are removed from the picture, and this doesn't seem solvable in the lifetime of one or two governments. I remember when Taoiseach Leo Varadkar implored the Dáil not to conflate housing and immigration issues, lest they play into the hands of the far right. Unfortunately, the issues on the ground aren't so neatly separated as the departments which manage them. Because really, this is an international applicant debate. This is a housing debate. The lack of housing in this country is the first mover that knocks over all the other dominoes, and until change happens there, it will not be possible in other sectors or areas of national governance. We need to bolster large development plans and defend them against scuppering by opposition complaints to An Bord Pleanála. We need to allow people to build on land they own. We need to offer grants for the conversion of existing houses into duplexes and for the building of additional family units in large gardens. We need to examine the local use only rule and allow young people to move out of the capital city and build and live in other counties, bringing their skills and money to the local communities. To return to the title of today's debate, accommodation for international protection applicants isn't really rocket science. There are only two variables. If there's a problem, you build more accommodation, or you have fewer international protection applicants via tougher screening, expedited and stricter processing for applicants from safer countries, automatic rejection for those who destroy ID in flight, and you actually enforce deportation orders. The government has put itself in a very sticky situation, and while it can and will say much more, it cannot say it wasn't warned. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.